hidden deep within Vietnam's dense jungles was a predator whose name chilled even the toughest Marines, Apache, the most feared woman of the Vietnam War. Her legend began on Hill 55, where early morning mist clung to the ground like a death shroud, concealing the jungle surrounding the Marine camp. Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock wiped the moisture from his rifle scope, his weathered face unreadable as he scanned the trees. Just 8 miles from Da Nang, this hill should have offered safety. But the Marines had stopped feeling secure. Someone was hunting them. Another one last night? Captain Edward Jim Land murmured, handing Hathcock a steaming cup of bitter coffee. Private Mendez found him at the perimeter. 1 shot, forehead. 600 yards minimum. Clean. Hathcock nodded without a word. This wasn't the work of average Viet Cong. The skill and patience behind each kill bore a signature Hathcock had come to recognize. For weeks, whispers had spread about a female sniper of mixed Vietnamese and French descent. She wasn't feared just for her aim, she was feared for what she did to prisoners. The Marines of the 5th Regiment, 1st Marine Division had grown especially anxious around Duc Pho. Reports from South Vietnamese forces described a Viet Cong woman who reveled in torture. At first, these accounts seemed too horrific to be true. Then the mutilated bodies started showing up, confirming even the worst of the rumors. She became a high-priority target. Land kept his voice low as he spoke. They're calling her Apache because of... He motioned vaguely to his eyes. Hathcock understood. Intelligence had confirmed that she took gruesome trophies, eyelids. His jaw clenched at the thought. She's using a Mosin agent with a scope, Land added. Russian 7.62 millimeters. Hathcock raised his binoculars and scanned the ridgeline again. Decent rifle. Mine's better. A young Marine approached nervously, face pale beneath layers of sweat and jungle grime. Gunny, Captain, Lieutenant wants you at command. A scout came in, it's about her. As they walked to the command post, Hathcock noticed the young men watching him, their eyes filled with hope and desperation. They needed to believe someone could stop Apache and end her terror. Apache had become more than an enemy sniper. She was a psychological weapon breaking down the unit's morale. Inside the command tent, Lieutenant Colonel Davidson leaned over a terrain map marked with potential threats. When Land and Hathcock entered, he straightened up, eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. Gentlemen, he greeted them, the scout brought something you need to see. A South Vietnamese ranger, his uniform caked with dried mud, stepped forward and placed photographs on the table. These were taken near a village 3 clicks east, Davidson said. Recon got them before they were spotted. The grainy images showed a group of Viet Cong moving through thick foliage. One photo captured a small figure with a scoped rifle, partially hidden by branches, but clearly female, with features suggesting mixed heritage. Even blurred by the photo's quality, her calm expression was chilling. That's her, Land confirmed. Apache. Hathcock studied the picture. Small. Probably weighs 100 pounds. Easy to underestimate. Davidson added grimly, that's exactly what makes her so dangerous. She doesn't look like a threat until it's too late. The scout spoke up, broken English barely masking the urgency in his voice. She moved camp every 2-3 days. Careful. Smart. He pointed to another photo of a crude shelter. She not like other VC. They fear her too. Land raised an eyebrow. Even her own people? The scout nodded. She enjoy pain. Not for information. For, he paused, struggling for the word. Pleasure. Silence fell. Hathcock had faced many enemies, but something about Apache's brutality set her apart. Most soldiers killed out of necessity or survival. Apache cultivated fear as a weapon. We've put together a dossier, Davidson said, pushing a folder toward them. Born in Hanoi. French father, Vietnamese mother. Joined the Viet Cong early. Became known for her skills as both sniper and interrogator. 31 years old. Responsible for at least 27 confirmed kills here. Hathcock flipped through the folder, reading reports and testimonies from captured Viet Cong who described her with both fear and awe. "Why us?" he asked. "Intel says she lost family during a raid near Da Nang last year. Civilians. Since then, she's focused on us, especially the 5th Regiment." Land skimmed several more photos, gruesome images of bodies marked with Apache's unique mutilations. "She's getting bolder," he said quietly. "That's why you're here," Davidson said. "This isn't just about killing a sniper. It's about stopping the woman who's killing this unit's morale." Hathcock closed the folder, face hard. "We'll need to set up observation posts, monitor possible approach routes, find her patterns." "Already marked the best locations," Land replied, pointing to the map. "High ground here and here covers known paths she's used." The scout stepped forward again, pointing to a valley nestled between ridgelines. "She liked this area. Good water. Caves. Easy to hide." Davidson nodded. "Whatever you need, it's yours." Da Nang Command made this mission top priority. As they exited the command post, the burden of the mission settled on Hathcock. This wasn't just a tactical assignment. It was psychological warfare. Around them, the Marines of Hill 55 moved with nervous energy. Young men flinched at every sound, their nerves shredded by the constant threat and the grotesque aftermath of Apache's attacks. "They need a win," Land murmured as they gathered their gear. "These boys need to believe they're not powerless." Hathcock checked his Winchester Model 70, the familiar weight grounding him. The hunt had begun. "Let's give them what they want." Over the next 3 days, Hathcock and Land settled into a routine. Before sunrise, they would quietly make their way to an observation post, sometimes remaining completely still for up to 18 hours at a time, watching and waiting. Hathcock's incredible patience proved to be one of his greatest strengths. He could hold his position motionless for longer than most people could even stay awake. On the 4th day, they finally noticed movement, a small group making their way along a stream bed, carefully sticking to the cover of the jungle canopy. Looking through his scope, Hathcock counted 5 individuals, but none matched Apache's description. "Spotters," Land whispered. "She sends them ahead to clear the way." Hathcock gave a nod. "She's behind them. The only question is, when?" That question was answered later that night in a way neither of them could have expected. Shortly after midnight, the air was pierced by agonizing screams. Hathcock sat up immediately, fully alert. The cries carried across the valley, clearly heard from the Marine encampment. Land was already lacing his boots. "She's making a statement," he said, his voice tight with fury. The screams didn't stop. They went on all night, broken only by chilling silences that somehow felt even more unsettling. The Marines on guard stood frozen, their faces pale in the moonlight. Everyone knew what was happening. Apache had captured a Marine and was showing exactly why her name struck fear into so many during the Vietnam War. "Who's unaccounted for?" Hathcock asked the duty lieutenant, his tone calm despite the storm inside him. The lieutenant's hands trembled as he checked the list. Private Johnson. He was on patrol with Ramirez. Ramirez came back with a graze, said they were ambushed. Thought Johnson was right behind him. Hathcock and Land exchanged a look. They both understood. Apache had allowed Ramirez to live so he could bring news of the capture back to base. Her psychological tactics were as precise and brutal as her rifle shots. "We can't go charging in blind," Land warned as a few Marines began to gear up. "That's exactly what she wants, a reaction. An unplanned, emotional assault. So we just let him die," a young corporal snapped, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and fear. Hathcock laid a steadying hand on his shoulder. "We listen. We gather information. And when we strike, it's with precision. She'll pay. But we do it right. As dawn broke, the atmosphere was heavy with silence. Hathcock and Land were preparing to lead a search when a shout from a sentry drew them to the eastern edge of the base. A figure was stumbling out of the jungle, covered in blood. "Cover me," Hathcock called out, and before Land could argue, he sprinted toward the wounded Marine. The young man collapsed just short of Hathcock. What had been done to him was unimaginable. His eyes were mercifully shut in death, though the intact eyelids suggested he had been conscious through it all. Kneeling beside the body, a cold certainty settled in Hathcock's chest. This wasn't just warfare, it was cruelty taken to a horrifying level. The Marine couldn't have been older than 19. "We're ending this today," Hathcock said when Land joined him. It was a declaration, not a suggestion. Back at the command post, Davidson examined the map more closely. "She's playing games," he muttered. "Showing us she can reach the perimeter any time." "She wants us to chase her," Land said. "Probably has ambush points already prepared, assuming we'll send in a large force." "We won't give her what she's expecting," Hathcock said, pointing to the map. "Just the two of us. Fast and light." Davidson looked up sharply. "Two of you? Against her entire unit?" "Two hunters," Hathcock replied. "She won't know she's the one being hunted." Land nodded. "Carlos is right. A full team would alert her. We strike now, before she realizes what we are doing." After a moment's pause, Davidson agreed. "You've got 12 hours. If you're not back, we send everyone. Ambush or not." They left within the hour, taking only what they needed: rifles, ammo, water, and rations. No radios, no unnecessary weight. Hathcock took point, following the faint trail left behind as Apache's group dragged Johnson away. The path wound through thick jungle, at times disappearing where the terrain hardened or water had washed away the signs. But Hathcock saw what others couldn't: subtle shifts in the forest, broken twigs, misplaced stones. By midday, they had silently covered nearly 4 kilometers. "They're getting sloppy," Land whispered during a brief stop. He gestured to cigarette butts left near a rest spot. "Overconfident," Hathcock agreed. "They think we've lost the will to fight. That we are scared." As the sun dipped lower, the trail led them up a ridgeline with a commanding view of the valley, an ideal sniper's nest. "Movement," Land said, freezing in place. Hathcock raised his binoculars and saw them, 5 figures on the ridge, about 700 yards away. 5 women, one of whom stood out, even from a distance. They stopped near a rock outcrop as the leader gave directions to the others. "That's her," Hathcock whispered, lowering the binoculars and preparing his shot. Land quickly calculated wind speed, elevation, and distance. 5-mile wind, uphill, he reported. Hathcock adjusted his scope accordingly, tuning out everything but the crosshairs and the target they locked onto. His breath slowed, his body went still. "Wait," Land said, placing a hand on his arm. "She's moving." Apache had stepped away from the others, heading toward some bushes. She slung her rifle over her shoulder and crouched. "She's taking a piss," Land noted. "Perfect. She's exposed." This was it, the moment when the most feared woman in the Vietnam War was alone, unprotected. Hathcock inhaled slowly, then exhaled and squeezed the trigger right between heartbeats. The rifle's report cracked through the jungle. Through the scope, Hathcock saw Apache stumble, her hands clutching her chest. The others dove for cover. "Hit," Hathcock confirmed, already chambering a second round. As Apache tried to crawl for safety, his second shot struck. Her body jerked, then fell limp, face toward the sky. Land was on the radio, calling in artillery on the rest of the enemy. Moments later, the ridgeline exploded in fire and thunder. The jungle fell silent when the barrage ended. They approached cautiously, rifles raised. Bodies were scattered among the wreckage, but Hathcock's focus was only on one, the small form lying a short distance away. Apache had fallen where she'd been hit. Her lifeless eyes stared skyward. In death, she looked surprisingly ordinary, a 31-year-old woman with delicate features that gave no hint of the horrors she had inflicted. Her Mosinagant lay beside her, worn smooth from use. "It's done," Hathcock said quietly. When Hathcock and Land returned to base, confirming Apache's death, a wave of relief swept through the Marines at Hill 55. The most feared woman of the war was finally gone. But the mental wounds she had left behind would take far longer to fade than any physical scars.